Hey everyone, I'm really excited for this interview that we have here today. I'm here with Kato. She's over in Brussels in Belgium, and she has had, like so many people, unfortunately, a really hard journey with chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME. She was sick for about 2.5 years, tried everything under the sun to get better, and just nothing was working, and starting to seem kind of hopeless. But eventually she did find things that helped her to fully recover. And what I think you're going to really enjoy about this interview is not only are we going to share what worked for Kato to get better, we're also going to be talking about something that we don't really talk about enough, Kato and I think, is that, how do you navigate that once you are mostly recovered or fully recovered? How do you deal with the trauma of what you went through, the fear of symptoms coming back, and all of that stuff? Because we paint this picture of this sort of mountain climbing happily ever after, and that's not really accurate for most of us. So Kato, really appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm really excited.
And by really excited, I think you mean you're excited and stressed, because as you and I know, we have been trying for almost an hour, fighting through technical difficulties to make this work. We had different studio links that didn't match, and then we could not get the sound to work for the life of us. Then we had to switch platforms over to Zoom, and then we were having glitches and camera problems, and it's just been, so we're both in a bit of a frenzied state.
Yeah, now we can talk about it and relax finally. Hope that the electricity won't fall down or something like that.
But we were saying how kind of symbolic this is, or just demonstrates when people have gone through things like we've gone through, this sort of determination that and resilience, like we will find a way. We've been shut down 12 different ways. It's taken an hour, but we will not give up. So yeah, perseverance is good.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'd also like to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. I started using BetterHelp before I ever even knew that they might one day be sponsoring a video of mine. Like many people during the pandemic, I was really struggling with isolation and loneliness and just the overwhelm of everything that was happening in the world. So I started using BetterHelp online therapy, and my therapist was incredible. She was very supportive, and she helped me to problem solve and had a lot of suggestions for ways that I could connect with people and, just work on these things that I was really struggling with. What is BetterHelp? BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and your preferences in therapy, and that way BetterHelp can match you with the best possible therapist for you. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable. That can be through text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist anytime, and you can schedule live sessions for a time that is convenient for you. And one of the great things that I especially love about BetterHelp is that if your therapist isn't the right fit for you, you can easily and at no cost switch to another therapist to make sure that you find the one that is the best fit for you. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. And you can get 10% off your first month by going to betterhelp.com/Raelan. So that's BetterHelp, HELP. I have also linked this in the video description. All right, Kato, so take us back. How did this all start for you?
For me, it started with a bad sinus infection that didn't go away. I was a little bit better after the antibiotics, but then I think 2 weeks later, I was back at work. One night, I went to bed really tired and sleepy, and I slept for, I think, more than 12 hours, which is really not my style. I woke up and I was feeling exactly as tired as the day before. And that's like really the starting point for me. And then I had, the other symptoms came as well, like really bad headaches. I didn't know what to do with it. I remember that when I told my parents that they sent me, a mindfulness session, I wasn't into meditation or mindfulness or anything, but that was the first time I already tried something like that. And it didn't work, and I couldn't even listen to the voice of the man telling me to relax and do all this because the pain was so awful. And after I think 2 weeks dragging myself to work, trying to do the best I could. I had to stop working, and I went from doctor to doctor, the typical journey of someone who is suddenly experiencing all these symptoms, the fatigue that wouldn't go away. I was 24 years old when it started, so it was really weird for a young person to be so tired, and it wasn't only work that I couldn't do, of course, also the social contacts. I was really active before. I ran a lot. I was eating very healthy. I loved being outside in the nature, but I couldn't do anything of that. Yeah, that's a bit the start of my illness and of my journey with CFS. And it lasted, I think, for almost 2 years until I finally found a coach that really helped me recover. And then it was a matter of weeks, and I was fully recovered. So it was really flipping from one side to the other, flipping from being very ill to being fully well and climbing mountains, running, doing all the things that I like. Yeah.
So great job, Kato, summarizing what was probably a hellish couple of years so quickly. I know that's always such a hard thing for people to do. I'm sure people watching are curious. I know I'm curious, about a couple of things from that journey. When you first started going to doctors, what were they telling you was happening to you?
They didn't know, and they just wanted to do some tests. So I had the typical blood test, MRI scan for my brain, because the first couple of weeks I was convinced that I had a brain tumor, and I was really stressed about that. Yeah, I thought it can't be something else than a tumor because the pain is so awful. So the first couple of weeks and months, I was feeling very awful, but also stressing about all these serious diseases that you could have. So that was my first stressing point. But then, eventually all the tests came back normal, which should have been a relief. It was for the brain tumor and everything like that. But then after a couple of months, the doctors kept saying, yeah, okay, take another week, rest a little bit, do something that you like. And I thought, okay, something that I like, sorry, I can't do anything. So it was really hard to explain that it wasn't just like being overworked or like not feeling that great. I was really like a person pushing through all the time. I had, when I studied, I always studied very hard. I got a Pfeiffer disease, Epstein-Barr virus. So it was before the chronic fatigue. And through that illness, even though I was feeling very tired, I pushed through because I could push at that point. So I was tired and I still managed to do everything, which wasn't very smart when I look back. But so I was really feeling frustrated when doctors or people around me were trying to minimize the symptoms, or you can't really blame them because they can't feel it. But so I spend a lot of time trying to explain it, but trying not to complain too much about it either. So it was really like a dark, lonely period, lonely time of my life. I had my boyfriend with me. I was very supportive, and also my parents and my sister, they were really invested in me, but they couldn't really understand. So I felt very anxious and lonely and afraid. Yeah, and eventually I think also the specialists that did the test, and then when they came back normal, they just said, okay, so I can't help you any further. So then I had to go back, to the general practitioner. And the first 6 months, it was a doctor that was really not supportive or anything. But then I switched, and she couldn't really help me. She admitted it herself. She said, I really don't know what to do with this, but she was really supportive, and she didn't about my sick leave from work. She had to write the notes all the time. She wasn't like doing, oh, you need another note, like giving me the bad feeling. She was just like, okay, take your time. And when I think I was more than 1 year ill, then I finally bumped into the fact that you could recover from chronic fatigue syndrome. Then also she was really supportive when I tried recovery programs, and even I think a lot of doctors, especially here in Belgium, they're very like factual. And then when you talk about a program abroad, they're like, okay, no, it will be a scam, or it won't work. But she was really like, okay, yeah, you're doing something about it. So she really helped me a lot in that way. So I'm still grateful to her for that. But maybe I forgot, I hope it isn't too confusing, but people are probably wondering, when did I know that it was chronic fatigue, after all the tests. And I think the name dropped quite early in my illness. During my illness, it's quite known in Belgium, chronic fatigue, but not in the way, like, not how it is. In fact, it's just like people know the name of the illness, and they think, oh yeah, it's for people that are just, a little bit tired and they don't want to go to work. I think it was my mom who said, yeah, I think maybe you can have that. She didn't mean it in like the insulting way, but just like when you Google symptoms like tired all the time, you get this response from Google. And I really didn't want that label, because here the health practitioners, all they say, and the information on the internet is, you can't recover, it's lifelong, you have to live with it. You can like enhance, what's the right word, like your condition, you can improve it a little bit, but you can't recover. So you will always need to be careful. And then I think after 6 months or something in the illness, my boyfriend and we asked my general practitioners to complete the forms of there's one institution in Belgium, like a real medical institution at the university, that specializes in chronic fatigue syndrome. But they have a really long waiting list, because one institution is not much. But I already completed the forms, and I thought, okay, I will do it, and then they can exclude chronic fatigue syndrome, like they excluded the brain tumor. So then I don't have to worry about having that. But I knew when I read about it that I had it, but until then I only read the negative things about it. And I had a friend telling me about her mom, who had been ill for 20 years or something, and I was really like, my God, I can't live like this for long. No, I was sure about that. So I got like diagnosed, I think 1 year later. So it even took 1 year to get the diagnosis. And I think at the same time, when I got the clinical diagnosis of CFS, I also found the fact that you could recover. So I think my first video was one from Toby Morrison from the CFS Health program. And that was like an eye-opener for the fact that you could recover, that there were programs, not in Belgium. In Belgium, it was a clinical program, and not with like the nicest message. It was more like a program on how you can learn to live with the illness. So that I didn't want to follow that program, because I thought, I'm not going to learn to live with this. I think that was a little bit a shift in 2021. So in the summer, 1.5 years after getting ill, and then I was recovered in spring of 2022.
And it's so interesting listening to your story. And I know that you were saying before we started, I don't want to say things that people have already heard 100 times. And a lot of what you're saying, I'm thinking, oh, this sounds so familiar, but in a good way. I think it's just really validating it's heartbreaking, first of all, that so many people are going through the same hellish experience, but also just like, wow, like this is, so many of it. Like when I hear it, I'm like, I feel less alone, because like you could have been telling my story in so many ways, even though I was in Canada and a, other part of the world. So, before we just jump into the things that did work for you, I imagine during those, first year and a half or however long you did try things that didn't work. And people always tell me they find it interesting to know some of the things you tried that weren't helpful. So were there some things that you...
So in the first 1.5 years, because I didn't know about the diagnosis, or I couldn't accept it until I really had it on paper. I didn't really do anything that was like focused on recovery. Like I didn't do any program or anything that claimed to help with recovery. But what I did do was, apart from the medical visit, which I pursued for, I think, more than 6 months. So I was still in that mindset of, waiting for a pill or something to cure me. But I went to a therapist because I thought, okay, it could be helpful to learn how to be less stressed, and maybe just to learn how to not be sad about the fact that I feel awful all the time, because it was really wearing me down. So I thought, but it wasn't really helpful because she didn't really know anything about CFS. So I think her techniques were more for people that were just a little bit stressed out, but that could still participate in life. So she had these techniques and anything that would be helpful now that I'm back to work, back to traveling, back to learn to not be such a perfectionist, and all these things that, contributed to me getting ill. But it was too soon to work with these personality traits because it was too far away from me. I couldn't even remember how it was to be healthy or how it was to be perfectionist about something, because I thought all I do is lying on the couch. So that wasn't really helpful, but I went there, I think, for a year. So maybe it helped just to talk to someone without feeling guilty that it was a depressing story. When I could meet up with a friend. It didn't happen a lot while I was sick, but then I wanted to be the nice person and talk about something nice and not about how awful I was feeling. So that helped a little bit. But I knew quite early in the illness, although I was feeling all these physical symptoms, I knew it won't be a diet or something that will cure me, because I ate very healthy before I came sick, biological from the garden of my parents, like maybe too healthy. I was too focused on eating healthy and being in shape and everything like that. So I knew in a way that contributed to me getting sick. Not the fact that, not the healthy food itself, but more my thoughts about it, stressing about it. I didn't try diets or what's the name, homeopathy or things like that. I thought it won't help me. But then in 2021, so maybe I should mention, just when after a couple of months, when I felt a little bit better, I started working again, but only half time and from home. So that took also a bit my focus away from getting well, because I was so excited to go back to work. I was feeling awful still, but I thought, okay, it's not as bad as the beginning. And if I can work, it means that I am recovered. It was a bit of a circular reasoning. So I started that, I think, for 6 months, but I crashed all the time. And it was also very stressful, and because I was stressing about crashing, oh no, when will be the next relapse? And then I have this file that I can't do. But it took my focus away from the illness and also looking for a solution for it. And then just after a major relapse, I don't like that word, but I will use it, relapse or crash, then that was a shifting point for me to really start looking for recovery programs. And I think then immediately I started with the right one for me. So the first recovery program that I did was the ANS Rewire from Dan Neufer. I know it's been on your channel for a couple of times. I won't talk too much about it because there's a lot of information about the program itself and also the interviews with Dan. But to summarize, I didn't recover during the program, but it helped me a lot. And I think I could have recovered during the program if I just had the right mindset. Maybe I can explain, or is it too in detail?
No, please do.
Okay. So the ANS Rewire program, just to summarize, is mostly brain training. But in the program, the Neufer also covers like physical support and getting enough rest, focusing on diet, like to do everything you can to get well. And although he emphasizes that, you know, like don't get caught up in following all these rules for diet and everything, and like brain training is the most important thing, just like trying to do physical strategies in a way of really like resting, like knowingly, oh no, I will lie on the couch for an hour now, and now I will eat this and that. It's, for me, it took away like the good part of the brain training. So because I tried to combine it too much, I was too insecure about the physical strategies to really pursue it, the brain training. So I did too the brain training, the techniques, you know, to when you focus on your illness, you stop the thoughts about it and you shift to something else. Like it's a known technique, and like the ways to do it can be various, but so I used the rewire technique of Dan Neufer. But all the lessons about the body support, it confused me because I still acted too much like a sick person. And that I gave the wrong signal to my brain. And I think that made like the brain training not work at the beginning. And also I missed someone, you know, like next to me, maybe also in my own language, to which I could really ask questions, you know, Dan has a form and everything, but I was feeling too shy to type things on the form. So I really wanted someone that I could ask to, like, can I go to the party tomorrow? Really like stupid things like that. Like, okay, so is it okay if I do that? And so then I went looking for a coach in the Netherlands. So if people from Belgium and the Netherlands are watching, because there's a very limited offer of things like that in our region. Actually, what she taught me was also brain training. So it was the same as the ANS Rewire program. It was a different appearance, you know, different technique, but the principle is the same. But it was only brain training. And she really said, like, Kato, after 2 years, you've rested enough. Like it's a shocking message. And she didn't mean like, yeah, and now you have to go running and not rest like for the rest of your life. And of course not. But she meant like the real resting of a chronic fatiguely ill person, like abnormal resting in a way, like for young people or people in general, you know. She said that I could just, you know, do the techniques, and then when after you have like told your brain, for example, like it's really hard to explain it because it was in Dutch, but for example, when I woke up and my first thought was like every day, oh, I'm feeling tired all again, and all the sadness. Then I had to apply the technique, and which was a sort of stop technique, like or telling myself like it's grammar. You don't say I feel tired, but you say I am doing tired. Like it's some action that you can have control about, like I'm doing sad, and not I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling anxious. No, I'm doing anxious and I can stop it. So that was a part of the brain training technique. And it gives you a lot of control because it's not something that's happening to you, but really, you know, something that your brain is doing. So that was a technique. And then she said, you know, when you told your brain that it's just doing the fatigue, which doesn't mean that it isn't real, you know, it's still there. Yeah. But then we're not going to lie on the couch, because then you give another signal to your brain like, oh yeah, but it is real because I'm lying on the couch. I'm resting and waiting until it's over. No, then you really do something. And I was so ill for like, I feel it felt like for so long that I didn't even know what to do. And I asked like, yeah, but what? Like all my hobbies are really active. I can't go for a run immediately or something like that. I felt really bad that I didn't have like a painting hobby or something that felt more relaxed, but all the things I want to do are really active. And then she said, if you don't know what to do, just go clean your house. So it was the first activity I did with the brain training techniques, cleaning the whole apartment, like really for hours, a little bit exaggerated immediately, but I did the techniques and I didn't even worry about afterwards, because it really made sense what she said. And it also, I had the basis of the program of Dan Neufer, so all the background, because it explains it really well, and it all made sense. I was already convinced, okay, it's my brain doing something. And then it made sense, like, and I'm doing the techniques, and then I start living again. And I started, it wasn't even like gradually building up. Of course, I went for a walk, and quite soon I just walked, and then I thought, okay, and now I'm running a little bit. And so, yeah, then it happened really fast, the recovery. So that's a little bit, so for me, it was all the brain training, and really letting go of treating my body like really a weak, ill thing. I think it was important that I had rested, like real rest after all the stress and the medical exams. I had some real rest, but afterwards it was enough to, I had lying enough on the couch or lay. I don't know what's the past tense?
Enough time lying on the couch is what you're saying.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, really incredible, Kato, that you were able to eventually find something that worked for you so quickly and find someone who could work with you in your own language. Just what was that like after so much struggle? We said we wanted to talk about recovery and, what happens once you're recovered? Where is your head at? How do you deal with the trauma of everything you went through? Are you still scared? So what did that feel like coming out of it?
Yeah, so when I noticed that the technique was really working, and then I could finally do things that I hadn't done in 2 years, I was really glad about everything. But also, I must say, even during the recovery progress, and even during the coaching program that I did at the end of the recovery, even though I knew rationally that the techniques were working or like made sense and I believed in it, I just wanted to emphasize, because I didn't have faith all the time, and I felt insecure even during doing the techniques, or not during the technique itself, but during the weeks that I was in the coaching program. So I had doubts, and sometimes like thoughts of fear popped into my head as well. And sometimes then I did the technique that I was supposed to do, but sometimes I could feel scared for a couple of hours, and then I thought, oh no, I'm messing it up again. I just wanted to say this because I had the impression when I was watching recovery interviews back when I was sick, it was really helpful, like to know what other people did and to hear their stories. But it also made me feel insecure from time to time, because I had the impression, but maybe it was just like because I focused on that it was all like, then people found the one thing and they had 100% faith and they did it and it worked, and they were thinking, yeah, I'm doing it and it's working. And I thought, whoa, I really have to wait for this feeling to come. I had it during the program of Dan Neufer. I was just waiting all the time for when the faith would overwhelm me. But now I realize that I'm just very insecure, like doubting, full of doubts all the time. Like it's just there. And even though I know rationally like that it's correct, or like that I'm doing a good job, not only in recovery but also in life and in general, I still have these feelings, and it made me feel insecure for a long time, also in recovery. And I kept thinking that I wasn't able to recover like as long as I had these doubts and these feelings. And so just to say that I found a coach and it was really helpful, and I did her techniques and they were helpful, but I still had doubts and moments. And that was like for me the good part with the coach, and I could email her and she could calm me down a little bit. So for me that helped a lot. Like I was really like a baby that needed some be held by the hand, and like someone saying, no, you're doing a good job and you don't need to be afraid. But So it's the same thing after recovery. When I listened to the interviews, I thought, okay, when you recovered, like you're on top of the world, you appreciate things more, and that's correct. In general, I think I'm very thankful for, not all the time. It's impossible to be grateful all the time, but you really appreciate things. But I thought that the illness would be like really forgotten. Oh, it's past and I'm recovered now, and I know it's never coming back. I've heard people saying that, and I'm still jealous of the, I think you said it as well, and I'm jealous of the certainty by which people can say it, because I think rationally I also know that I have the techniques, and when something would come up, I know what to do. I have this coach, and I have been through, like, it wouldn't be the same thing if something would happen, but still sometimes I'm feeling just this fear, and it was I think I've been recovered for more than a year now, and it's been stronger, the fear, I think, during the first months of recovery. Not the very first month. Then I was really like, yeah, it's working and I'm getting better and everything was new again. But then when I started to work again, and I felt responsibility, and then I had the flu, and when you have a flu you feel bad, and it's a little bit similar to CFS symptoms in a way. So after one day or something, I thought, oh no, I think the flu should be over by now. Is it coming back? And it's just these feelings. I know it's very emotionally, because I can tell myself, like, you don't like thinking like that. It's not helpful and it's not coming back, but the feelings are still there. And I think maybe other people have it as well after recovery, that it's sometimes like it flashes into your head, and it can be in unexpected moments. So it's not that so for example, I've done a very extreme hiking tour for 2 weeks in the mountains, very extreme, physically exhausting. But you would think that I would have doubts then, like, oh, isn't it too much? But no, then I didn't have the doubts. So it's not like, how do I need to say it? It's not typically like related to a certain event for me. Sometimes it's just like, I think like a trauma flashback, that some fear that takes control over me. I have techniques to deal with that as well. It's like a little bit the same as the recovery techniques, but I've also, like, one of the part of being recovered and staying recovered is, I think, also accepting that this little bit of fear is a part of me. It doesn't mean that I'm not fully recovered or being careful. I just do whatever I want. Careful, like taking rest or not doing a full hike. But I have these thoughts or these fears now and then, and I think it's good to know before you recover, or when you're in recovery and you would have them. It's good to know maybe that I can't say it's normal, because it's not because I have them that it's normal, but I think it's understandable. Maybe maybe some people can relate. I don't know how it is for you, like, because sometimes I have the impression that people who have done like a career shift, for example, during recovery, who choose to be a health practitioner or like setting up a recovery program, that they maybe have less doubts because they're working with it also every day, and it's like a reminder to themselves. But for me, I just went to being an attorney again, and which I really like. But I don't have these little reminders or like these pieces of confirmation for me, like, okay, I'm still on the right track. Like, I'm feeling well, but sometimes I think, oh, am I not making the same mistakes as before? Or I don't know if it's clear. That's one of my fears, that I'm just like the same person as before I got ill, and that I have learned nothing. That's my biggest.
Oh my goodness, there's just so much you've said that's relatable, and I'm really glad that you shared about all the doubts that you're having while you're doing brain training, because I'm so interested in brain training now, and I'm just learning everything that I can and just researching and talking to people. And so much of what I read tells me that an important part of brain training, that first piece, is that education piece, understanding that there's nothing structurally wrong with you, and having belief, and it does give you this impression that for it to work, you need to have this 100% belief in everything at all times. So knowing that you had those fears and you had those doubts and you still saw such progress so quickly, I think is really important information to get out there, because I'm sure you're not the only one who is going through it that isn't, 100% like, yes, you have zero doubts. And also, like when I first started talking about my recovery and I said, yes, I'm fully recovered, I believe I'm fully recovered, for me, it was almost a bit of a defense mechanism. It was the only thing I could allow myself to believe. And, I would say, do I know for sure this will never come back? No, nobody knows that. But I just had to choose to believe that it wasn't going to. But then I've gone through, and it's been, 4 years or something since I recovered it. And I'm still struggling with it. And I still have days where I don't feel well. And I think, is this like symptom flares coming back, or is this just normal being tired? And one of the gifts for me has just been doing all these interviews with people like you, because I've learned so many brain training techniques. So although I wasn't purposely using them, I see now that I was still actually using them. But during my recovery, I use them now, and I find them really helpful. And I've talked to so many people that have recovered that kind of tell me more, off camera about some of these doubts or fears. Like, I think there's a well-intentioned desire of people like myself and other people telling their story to give hope to other people out there and be like, I'm recovered, I feel good, life is great. And maybe unintentionally, we're kind of, glossing over the struggles that are still there. Because so many people I talk to say, yeah, there's times I feel like a fraud because I said I'm fully recovered and I never worry. And then I have days I'm like, oh my goodness, is it back? So I suspect that virtually everyone who recovers has these moments that you're having, just maybe aren't as honest with themselves or with other people, or scared to give any attention to it, just like,
it's just like, no, it's not there.
Yeah,
but it's funny, like also you use the word like normal. It's really difficult for people that had CFS, I think, or have it, still have it, to use like CFS fatigue or normal fatigue. Because when I'm not feeling well, and I think it's really, no, I'm sure it's not a symptom flare up, because but I had to learn it again after being recovered, how it is to be a normal person. And it doesn't mean feeling great or 100% energy every day, but it doesn't mean that you're sick. It's just something in between. My boyfriend has it as well. Just some days he feels more tired, but he doesn't have the trauma of what we had, so he's not thinking about it. He doesn't pay attention, just thinks, oh, I'm feeling a little bit tired, I go to bed early. When I feel more tired, and it's not just because I didn't sleep well or something like that, then these thoughts pop up or these fear come up, and then I ask my boyfriend, is it normal that I feel tired right now? Or it's like, he's very supportive, but he gets really annoyed by my questions like, is it normal that I experience this? And then he's just like, yes, it's normal, nobody's perfect. This typical. So it's good to, I think you shouldn't even try to give it a name, like, what is it? Is it a symptom, or is it a flu, or is it just our body that's a little bit out of energy? But it's really hard to not analyze it, I think, because of the illness. And I think that's like similar for everyone that had it has become really aware of their body and how they feel, and like in a way of taking care of it. Like, that's the intention, but sometimes it's too much attention. So my mindset to deal with these kind of thoughts or experiences, a flu or other days that I'm not feeling great, just when I'm ready for it, I also do the brain training techniques, but I also thought, and that's really helped from my coach when I told it to her, because I still see her like after a couple of months just to catch up a little bit. And when I told her about this, she says, yeah, but you shouldn't be so harsh on yourself on like pushing the thoughts away with the techniques either. If you feel like getting caught up within it and, you know, like feeling fear and anxious, you just allow it. And then when you think, okay, I've had enough of it, then you do the techniques. And also it's quite liberating to just think, okay, if I want to have unhelpful thoughts for now, I just allow them. And then when I feel, okay, no, I can handle them, and then I do the techniques. And I think a thing that I say to myself when I'm like afraid that I'm the same person as before, like the person that's always pushing hard on herself, like wanting to achieve things. And then I say, okay, no, but now when I feel tired and it's possible, you know, to rest, and I also rest, you know, I feel tired, I go to work because then I have to go to work. But then in the evening, I'm not the person anymore that says, yeah, and now you should go for a run, even though you're not feeling up to it. You should go for a run, or you should meet with that friend. No, then then that's for me the sign that I have learned something. When I just want to watch TV, and, you know, postpone the run to another moment when I'm feeling like going for a run, then I do it then. So it's these really little things, but I tend to forget them, you know, because I still have this personality. I really like to achieve things. I'm quite a perfectionist. I want to be the best, you know, in the things that I think that matter to me. So, but I'm really aware of these thoughts, or when I in the beginning, for sure, when I went for a run, I really asked myself, do I want to go for a run, or do I think that I should go for a run? And I still do it because, yeah, I just, my personality didn't change. I've been through all these things, and I've read a lot, I've learned a lot, but still it's really a part of me. So the only thing I can do is accept it and be a little bit mindful about it, and applying the techniques. But sometimes I mess up, and now I know. You've been recovered for 4 years, now me 1 year. It doesn't have a big impact when you mess up now and then, you know, when you reach your limits, or you go a little bit too far. It doesn't mean that you're sick the day after. Or,
you know, as you're talking, I was thinking, I didn't used to understand this, because people would tell me they recovered and they still kept watching the recovery videos. But now I totally get it, because I've thought a lot. I wonder where I would be now if I didn't have this channel, because it's such a gift for me personally, because, you know, so many of the things that I had to learn during my illness and that I did to recover still serve me now. But I forget them. I forget a lot of them, and I need constant reminders. And even when you're talking, it's just all these light bulbs going off and just, you know, reminding me, yes, it's good to use the tools, but you don't have to use them all the time to attack every little thing that comes up in your life. And so I think you had a good point about maybe people who work in it just it's a helpful thing to keep having those reminders and keep talking about it and thinking about it, because, you know, these are lifelong ingrained personality traits and habits that we have, and we get better, and life comes back, work comes back, social life comes back, and we're not just instantly a different person. Even though I thought I would be once I recovered. I'm like, I'm a whole new person. I'll never be the way I was again. And then kind of, you know, you don't just change instantly. Some things change, but so yeah.
No, it's true. I really relate with that. I also thought that I would be a totally new person, but I'm not. So it's good. Sometimes I need it when someone, you know, from my surroundings tells me that, like, oh yeah, but you changed in that way, or you're really different than before. And then I think, okay. So, okay, I have learned some things and I'm still applying them. And it's really hard to notice it yourself, because we're alone in our head all the time. which can be such a burden. But yeah, I think it's true what you say. And also, I think now I'm thinking, because I stopped watching the recovery interviews because I wanted to take some distance and not have. Because it works in two ways. It's a good thing to have the reminders, but also the bad things. And when someone talks about the symptom, it could happen that I think I feel it again afterwards, but it's just the fear of feeling it again. But now I think distance is been a year or so, and I think I really can use the reminders as well. Like like you said, sometimes it's just to feel secure about it, like to have the confirmation, okay, still on the right track. So
yeah, it's incredibly powerful just having the things that you're going through normalized. Like, okay. And it kind of helps me see a lot of the times, where I'm being too hard on myself or expecting too much of myself in terms of self-care or whatever it might be. So yeah, a combination of that and just also the reminder of all the tools, that we have that help us to just be happier in life and be healthier in life. And those brain training things for me are super helpful when I do catch myself kind of spiraling, going down that, like, is this normal? Is it not? Just doing kind of stop and just reminding myself, whatever it is. I know that when I take care of myself, my body is strong, I will feel well. I'm going to get run down, I'll feel tired, but I'll rest, I'll feel better. And it's just, I have a little thing I go through in my brain, but yeah, it's a process though. Yeah. I'm 4 years, and it's going to be different for everybody. Some people, 4 years later, maybe they're completely fine and not grappling with this stuff. And, some people, the interviews might be helpful. Other people, they need that distance. But I think it's just important to trust yourself and trust your knowledge about yourself and your own insight and intuition about what you need. And keep doing what you got to do.
Yeah. No, exactly. I'm really glad that we talked about it.
Yeah, such an important topic. Thank you so much, Kato. We need to talk about this so much more on the channel. People watching, please tell us in the comments, what do you think? What do you think about all this stuff, about recovery, about navigating life once you're almost recovered or fully recovered? What do you do, or what works best for you? That's one of the great things I love about this channel, is that we just share a lot of information and ideas here and really help each other out. So yeah, thank you, Kato, so much for today. I swear you said at least 100 incredibly insightful things today. I just found so much value in everything you shared. So I have no doubt that people watching are feeling the same way. So thank you so much for persevering through the technical difficulties and doing this, because I know this is going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, it was really, really nice to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah. And for people watching, I'll share a list. I have a list of brain training, information and different activities and exercises. And, there's more and more information and brain training techniques that are available for free. So I can link a playlist on the screen here if you want to check it out and see some things that maybe might seem like a good idea for you. So yeah, thank you to those of you watching. Looking forward to your thoughts and comments. If you haven't already signed up for my email newsletter, I summarize these interviews there. I know it can be a lot to take in, so you can get all of this delivered to your inbox every week, so you won't miss a thing. There's a link in the video description if you want to sign up. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got as much out of it as I did, and I hope to see you in one of these next videos.